The Great Wall of China stretches 13,170 miles across northern China, the longest man-made structure in human history. To put that in perspective, if you laid the Great Wall flat along the equator, it would circle the Earth more than halfway. The wall is so large that if you used all the bricks to build an 8-foot wall 2 feet thick, it would encircle the entire planet. Construction began in the 7th century BC, not as one wall, as dozens of separate walls built by different Chinese states, each defending their own borders. The Qin Emperor Shi Huang, who unified China in 221 BC, connected these walls into one continuous defensive system. He used an estimated 400,000 workers. Many of them died during construction and were, according to some historical accounts, buried inside the wall itself, which makes the Great Wall of China also the world's largest known cemetery. The wall was built to keep the Mongols out. For a while, it worked. Then Genghis Khan came along, and it became clear that the Mongols were more of a people problem than a wall problem. Today, 10 million tourists visit each year. Sections have been reconstructed for tourism. Several sections are crumbling. And the popular belief that you can see it from space is entirely false. Astronauts have confirmed this repeatedly. The Great Wall of China is extraordinary enough, without needing that particular myth, which says something about how good it actually is.
Somewhere in the desert of Jordan, there is a city that nobody asked to be discovered. For centuries, Petra was known to the Western world only through vague references in ancient texts. Then, in 1812, a Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt disguised himself as a Bedouin pilgrim to get local guides to take him there, because the region's inhabitants were protective of what they knew was inside. What Burckhardt found was one of the most extraordinary cities ever built. Except that built is slightly the wrong word. Petra was carved. The Nabateans, a nomadic Arab people who became extraordinarily wealthy merchants, controlling trade routes between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean, cut an entire city directly into the rose-red sandstone cliffs of southern Jordan. Temples, tombs, amphitheaters, water channels, markets, all carved out of the living rock, beginning around the 4th century BC. The most famous structure is the Treasury, Al-Hasne, a 130-foot-high facade carved into a cliff face with columns, reliefs, and an urn at the top. Local Bedouin legend said the urn contained treasure hidden by a pharaoh. Generations of people fired guns at it, trying to crack it open and release the gold. The urn is solid stone. It has the bullet marks to prove it. Petra sits at roughly 2,700 feet above sea level, surrounded by mountains, accessible only through a narrow canyon called the Seek. In its peak around the 1st century AD, it housed an estimated 30,000 people. It had one of the most sophisticated water management systems in the ancient world, channels, cisterns, and pipes carved through the rock to channel every drop of rainfall in a desert environment. The Nabateans had somehow solved the same problem that modern water engineers still struggle with. Petra was then conquered by Rome in 106 AD, incorporated into the empire, and slowly declined as sea trade routes replaced the overland routes that had made the Nabateans rich. By the 7th century, it was largely abandoned and forgotten by everyone except the Bedouin who had always known it was there. 1,200 years of intentional amnesia. Chris the Redeemer is the youngest of the 7 wonders by a significant margin, and it has one of the more unusual origin stories. The idea started in 1888, when a Brazilian princess requested that a statue of Jesus Christ be erected in Rio to honor the abolition of slavery. The Catholic Church liked the idea. Nothing happened for about 30 years. Then, after World War I, some Brazilian Catholics became concerned about what they described as a tide of godlessness spreading through society. They revived the statue proposal with renewed urgency. Brazil's president approved it, a design competition was held. The French sculptor Paul Landowski won, based on drawings by Brazilian engineer Heitor da Silva Costa. The statue was built in France, in pieces, then shipped across the Atlantic and assembled on top of Mount Corcovado in Rio de Janeiro at 2,330 feet above sea level between 1926 and 1931. The arms alone span 92 feet.
The total structure, including the base, stands 125 feet tall. It weighs 635 tons, and it is covered in 6 million individual triangular stone soapstone, each one applied by hand. Every year, lightning strikes the statue between 3 and 5 times. Rio is one of the most lightning-active cities on Earth. Christ the Redeemer has been struck so many times that it has its own lightning protection system, which is either deeply ironic or entirely appropriate, depending on your theological position. Around 2 million people visit annually. It is the most photographed landmark in South America, and it was officially classified as a mechanical wonder by New 7 Wonders in 2007, making it the only wonder on the list that was built within living memory of people still alive today.
Machu Picchu sits at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level in the Andes Mountains of Peru. Getting there requires either a 4-day mountain trek or a train journey that winds through cloud forests so spectacular it looks like a film set. Most people suspect it is a film set, until they arrive and realize something built by human hands in 1450 without power tools is somehow more impressive. The Inca Emperor Pachacuti built Machu Picchu around 1450 AD. Nobody's entirely sure why. The most widely accepted theory is that it was a royal estate, a palace and retreat for the emperor and the Inca elite. Other theories suggest a religious sanctuary, an astronomical observatory, or a military base. The honest answer is that the Inca left no written records, so we are largely working from archaeology and educated guessing. What we can say with certainty is this: the construction is extraordinary. The Inca used no mortar, no cement, no modern adhesive of any kind. The stones, some weighing over 50 tons, were cut with such precision that the joints between them are less than a millimeter wide, so tight that not even a credit card can be slid between them. Which means the Inca were achieving tolerances that modern stoneworkers find genuinely difficult, using nothing but stone tools and an apparently unlimited supply of patience. The site has 200 structures, including temples, palaces, agricultural terraces, and a solar clock called the Intihuatana stone that functioned as both an astronomical instrument and a ceremonial object. The terraces weren't decorative. They were functional agriculture on the side of a mountain, designed to feed the city using a soil management system that modern agronomists have described as sophisticated. Then in 1532, the Spanish arrived. The Inca Empire collapsed within a generation under the combination of conquest and epidemic disease. Machu Picchu was abandoned around 1572 and swallowed by jungle. It remained unknown to the outside world until 1911, when an American historian named Hiram Bingham was guided to it by a local Peruvian farmer. Bingham promptly took credit for discovering it. The Peruvian farmer who took him there is less historically celebrated, which tells you something about how discovery narratives work. On the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, the Maya built a city so precisely aligned to the astronomical calendar that it still works 1,000 years later, like a clock. Chichen Itza was one of the largest Maya cities, reaching its peak between 600 and 1200 AD. At its center stands the Temple of Kukulkan, a pyramid known as El Castillo, which translates simply as the castle. It is 79 feet tall, has 4 stairways with 91 steps each, plus 1 step at the top, totaling exactly 365, one for each day of the year. The timing is not coincidental. The Maya were extraordinary astronomers and built their architecture as a physical calendar. Twice a year, at the spring and autumn equinoxes, the angle of the afternoon sunlight creates a shadow pattern on the northern staircase that produces the illusion of a feathered serpent descending the pyramid. The effect lasts precisely 4 hours. Thousands of people travel to Chichen Itza specifically to watch it. The Maya engineered this into the structure in approximately 900 AD, without computers, without modern surveying equipment, and apparently without any of the spreadsheet software that modern architects rely on. The city was also the site of a ritual ball game, played on a court 551 feet long, the largest in Mesoamerica. The game involved players hitting a rubber ball through a stone ring using only their hips. The ring is positioned 27 feet high on the court wall. The debate among historians over whether the losing team or the winning team was sacrificed afterward remains genuinely unresolved. There are arguments for both interpretations. Either way,
It was a game with consequences. Chichen Itza was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1988. Every equinox, approximately 50,000 people gather to watch the serpent shadow. The pyramid was closed to climbing in 2006 after a tourist fell to their death, which may have been the most unexpected connection between Chichen Itza's ancient history and its modern tourism profile.
The Roman Colosseum was built in 8 years. 8 years. One of the largest and most complex amphitheaters ever constructed took less time to complete than it currently takes to deliver some infrastructure projects in modern cities. The Romans built it using concrete, a Roman invention, hydraulic lifts, retractable awnings called velaria that could shade the entire audience from the sun, and a drainage system sophisticated enough to flood the arena for mock naval battles. Construction began under Emperor Vespasian in 72 AD and was completed under his son Titus in 80 AD. It was built on the former site of an artificial lake in the grounds of Nero's enormous private palace, the Domus Aurea, which was something of a public relations move. Nero had built a palace for himself. Vespasian built an arena for the people. The symbolism was entirely intentional. At its peak, the Colosseum could seat between 50,000 and 80,000 people, organized by social class. Senators at the front, plebs at the back, women largely segregated in the upper tiers. Entrance was free. Emperors used the games as a political tool, bread and circuses, as the satirist Juvenal memorably described it. Keep the population fed and entertained, and they will not revolt. What happened inside is familiar, but worth stating clearly. Gladiatorial combat, animal hunts involving lions, bears, and elephants imported from Africa and Asia, and occasionally executions. Around 400,000 people and over 1 million animals are estimated to have died in the Colosseum over its 400 years of active use. This is a large number. The Romans were, as a civilization, enthusiastic about spectacle in ways that require some historical context to understand, and some moral processing to sit with. After the fall of Rome, the Colosseum was used as a quarry. Its marble, stone, and bronze were stripped for use in constructing other Roman buildings, including parts of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, which is an architectural detail that has been diplomatically handled in most tour guides. Today, it receives nearly 8 million visitors annually. It is the most visited monument in Italy and one of the most recognized buildings on Earth.
The Taj Mahal was built because a man missed his wife. Shah Jahan, the 5th Mughal emperor of India, and his wife Mumtaz Mahal were, by all historical accounts, genuinely devoted to each other. She accompanied him everywhere, including on military campaigns. In 1631, during the birth of their 14th child, Mumtaz Mahal died. Shah Jahan was reportedly so grief-stricken that he did not eat for 8 days, and his hair turned white within months. He then spent the next 17 years building her a tomb. The Taj Mahal was completed in 1648 in Agra on the southern bank of the Yamuna River. It employed an estimated 22,000 artisans and craftsmen from across the Mughal Empire and beyond, Persia, the Ottoman Empire, Europe. The white marble was quarried from Makrana in Rajasthan and transported 200 miles by elephants. The semi-precious stones embedded in the marble, lapis lazuli, turquoise, jade, coral, carnelian, came from Afghanistan, Tibet, Sri Lanka, and Arabia. The calligraphy inscribed around the main entrance is intentionally designed with slightly larger lettering at the top than the bottom, a visual trick so that it appears uniform in size when viewed from the ground looking upward. The entire structure is built with bilateral symmetry so precise that engineers have described it as nearly impossible to achieve with modern instruments, let alone without them. Shah Jahan planned to build an identical mausoleum for himself across the river in black marble, connected to the Taj by a silver bridge. He ran out of money and time. His own son Aurangzeb deposed him and imprisoned him in the Agra Fort, from which he spent his final years looking across the river at the Taj Mahal. He died there in 1666 and was buried beside Mumtaz in the chamber below.
The Taj Mahal is the only tomb in the world that has been called the most beautiful building ever constructed by so many people for so long. 8 million people visit annually. Photographs of it never capture it accurately. Everyone who has seen it in person says the same thing. It is better than the picture, which, given the pictures, is saying something.
And that is all 7. 7 buildings, 7 civilizations, 7 completely different definitions of what it means to make something worth remembering. Built across 2,600 years, surviving wars, empires, earthquakes, and the occasional tourist falling off a pyramid. Still standing, still remarkable. And every one of them built by hand, by people who had no way of knowing that the thing they were building would still be standing when something called the internet existed, and 100 million strangers voted on it.